Hello everyone, this is my first YouTube download for a gun review, or for any video really. Before I start off, I just want to thank you for clicking. I am going to try to keep this up if it goes anywhere, but do forgive me. This is my first video. I am filming on a cell phone. I know that's going to get a lot of thumbs down. But anyway, so if you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'm going to try to cover everything I can in a fairly quick amount of time. So, today I am going over my Springfield Armory M1A. It was formerly a loaded model, which just had a... when I got it, it had a synthetic stock. It had the National Match trigger, National Match sights, and the National Match barrel. Other than that, though, just plain rifle, black synthetic stock and all that. I'm going to go over everything I've had done to it, how I like it, my experience with it, and then, just a couple finishing remarks. But anyway, so the things I've done to it. Obviously, I've added a scope and scope mount to it. I've had those on there for quite a while. The scope is a trijicon accupoint 2.5 to 12.5 with an illuminated mil dot reticle. It does have the fiber optic illumination. It's a center dot. It's not first focal plane. That model at this moment is not available and was not available when I purchased it. I have it sitting in a set of the Vortex precision match rings, which are actually made by Seekins, I believe. Those rings have been outstanding. I highly recommend them along with the scope. I know there are more advanced scopes on the market for about the same money, if not less than the Trijicon, but on something like this, on a semi-automatic with the with just the recoil impulse, especially the forward bolt impulse, the ruggedness of that scope is excellent. And fortunately, I haven't dropped it yet, but I would not be afraid for this rifle to fall off of a bench or off the tailgate of a truck or anything like that. It seems to be a very resilient optic. I have added, before anybody asks, that is a homemade cheek riser. It's simple in construction, just a couple pieces of Kydex, some screws, and some, webbing that I had, nothing fancy. I really didn't want to spend $100 on one just to see if I liked it or not. I have it in a Hogue stock. These stocks, when I emailed Hogue, they said that the stocks were made on a laminated setup. I went with this stock because the synthetic stock didn't have any strength to it, and I really didn't want to add a whole bunch of weight. I did have this rifle in an EBR chassis at one point, and I loved the chassis. It was great for ergonomics, but unfortunately, it was a bit of a hefty thing. It was a hard, besides just carrying it to the bench and carrying it around on the range, it was a hard gun to carry around. Anyway, so I did go with the Hogue stock. It is kind of it's a painted stock. It's the same thing you get on like the old Tactical stocks, or now they call it the Pro Varmint. I believe that this is a walnut. I don't know if that's exclusive to the Springfield stock, or to the M1A stock, but so far the finish is really nice on it. The handguard has had a little bit of rubbing, and here I'll show you there. The handguard has had a little bit of rubbing there. That's a little, just, I think it's just a clearancing thing. I may put the original handguard back on it, just to try and see if that helps anything. It hasn't caused any malfunctions yet, fortunately, and I don't think it will at this point. If it was going to, it would have been right away. But I may have to clearance it a little bit. The bipod is a Caldwell QD mount bipod. I just went with it because it was one I had laying around. I went with the Sadlak Picatinny rail adapter. It does go over the factory sling swivel. You just remove your screws. If you're going to add it to the synthetic stock, you do have to drill out the rivets, though, if you're going to add it to a walnut stock or a GI stock, but very easy installation. You can see a little bit of a textured paint there where I did have to, I had to clearance it a bit to fit, but that was more the stock than anything. I don't think that had anything to do, with the rail mount. The stock is identical to a standard M1A stock in profile, with the exception, you can kind of see it there, it is flat on the bottom. I don't know if that's intentional, but actually I really like it. It does make it easy to shoot off of a rest, or I've been shooting off of actually off the rail of a porch. So that has made it a really nice feature, having that flat on the bottom. I don't know if that was intentional, but they could pass it off as intentional and I'd totally buy it. I do live in a free state, so I am allowed to have my 25-round magazines, the Checkmate Industry 25-round magazines. That's the largest capacity I've tested. So far, I love these magazines. They've been great. Checkmate Industries has a few, and maybe in the future I'll do a few other videos on magazines I've tested, giving my opinion on it. Remove that real quick. Just a standard M16 silent sling. It's just to carry the rifle until I decide if I want to get a nicer sling or not. I probably will. Now, as far as other parts I've had installed, the barrel is a Hart barrel that has been melanited. It's 5R rifled. It has a 1 in 10 twist. I had Smith Enterprise actually install the barrel. I can do a lot of work, but I can't do head spacing and chamber reaming and everything like that. I wanted to go with somebody who was reputable in that. And then I shopped around. What ended up getting me on Smith Enterprise, honestly, was just I got to talking to Ron Smith, actually on Facebook. And, he kind of guided me through the whole process. He was very personable with me. I had no problem explaining the differences between his parts. He really hooked me up when it came to getting the work done and just making me feel really sure about everything. It is not the cheapest barrel on the market. I will say right now, I'll see the stamp on it. It is not the cheapest barrel on the market. It's probably one of the more expensive ones, but if you get a chance, look up Hart barrels. They do an outstanding job, and I'll even go as far as to say it's probably one of the best barrels on the market. I've got very few rounds through it. I've tested very little different types of ammo through it. Mostly a mixture of surplus, a little bit of steel case, and then some match grade ammo, just basic 168 grain. And I've been very impressed with it. This thing has performed very well. While it was being worked on, I did have them, besides the barrel, I had them obviously put on the front sight gas lock. Nothing wrong with the old one, but I like the protection that offers a little bit. The sadlak mount I'm using does offer that I can still aim under my scope, although I just really wanted to add it more or less because honestly I really wanted to switch out to the direct connect flash hider, and I still wanted a front sight, anyway. The direct connect flash hider is outstanding. It doesn't do anything for recoil, but muzzle flash is non-existent. I may test out one of the good iron muzzle brakes in the future, but I really like the clean profile. It actually makes the rifle feel a bit shorter than it is. It's still a 22-inch barrel, but this thing handles very well. It's still hefty. I'm not going to lie and say that it's a lightweight rifle, but if you want a lightweight rifle, you may just want to go with like a Scout Squad or even an AR-15 at that point. But so far it's been really good. I'll get to accuracy in a moment. They did do a trigger job on it too. It's not the Max Pack trigger. The only difference between this and the Max Pack is that the Max Pack has been melanited all the way through. That was just a cost-saving option. I don't have a problem with parkerizing. I didn't have the barrel parkerized because it's stainless steel and I can't. But they did, Ron Smith did change out, he did the trigger job himself on this. They did change out the safety, the plunger, the trigger, and I believe the hammer, and just they reparkerized everything when they were done. He replaced everything internally in the trigger with GI parts, and it feels great. The trigger job on this thing is outstanding. It's very crisp, really good take up. It's not too light, but it doesn't feel. It feels lighter than it is. But it's not. It's still a service grade trigger in my opinion. It's not something that I'm worried about with a semi-automatic. I have a trigger shoe on here that they put on for me, but actually it was sent to them by somebody else on Facebook named Kevin Young. He works with the M14, the M25 Blackwater, or not the Blackwater, the Black Feather stock. Sorry about that. This trigger shoe is really awesome. Now, it does kind of impede the safety a little bit as far as, it does shorten up the gap there just a little bit. Not a huge deal. I just push the safety. I use my thumb to push the safety out of the way before I put my finger on the trigger. But trigger feel is outstanding, and that EBR trigger shoe, I highly recommend it. Some internal parts that you can't see. It does have one of the Warfighter gas pistons. I did have a sadlak piston in it. They recommended their piston. I honestly wanted it to, I want to do some testing eventually. Or maybe I'll do some testing to show people the difference between factory, this, and then the sadlak tin coated piston, or titanium nitrate, for those, before anybody gets on me about that. I may do a piston comparison video. It does have a national match op rod guide made by Sadlak, and it does have, the standard factory springs. I haven't upgraded the springs or anything in it yet. The op rod is still factory, but when I got this rifle back, the action smoothness was outstanding on it. I've had the scope mount on it for quite a long time, and I have yet to have that lose zero on me. I've tested quite a few scope mounts, so I have a couple M1As, and I've tested quite a few different mounts, and so far this one's, it's the hardest to install. So those of you who are looking at it, it's the most difficult to install the first time you install one, but it is the most stable. It holds zero probably the best in my opinion, although I have yet to really have one come loose on me or lose zero. This one is the most solid feeling, I would say. I mean, that's why it has, and Smith Enterprise makes a mount very similar to that. I already had the mount when I bought that when I bought the rifle initially. So getting on to accuracy, now I've only got about 50 to 75 rounds through this myself. Again, kind of a combination. I've tested it with Thule ammo. I've tested it with German surplus M80 ball, just, bimetal jacket, 147 grain, cheap ammo. And then I've tested it with some 168 grain hollow point boat tail military surplus ammo. Very few rounds through it. The bore still is not seasoned, but I'm very impressed with the accuracy. At 100 yards, a 5-shot group, and I went ahead, I'm actually doing a little business card. They may not, Smith Enterprise may not be the only company I go to have work done, but I like kind of putting out there who did the work and who really made the rifle shoot like this. If I go to any other companies, I'll do the same for them. I work in the firearms industry, and I really like to promote companies who do good work. Ron and Andy at Smith Enterprise both did a really, really good job for me. They were in touch with me the whole process. They had no problem explaining which parts they'd recommend if you're unsure. And by no means, to get this kind of accuracy, do you have to go with the same combo that I did. Like I said, I don't know if the handguard is messing with that. I'm going to do further testing. But, I mean, this group, a little backstory on it. This group was shot, say, it's early January, and this group was shot in 35-degree weather. It was fairly windy, although at 100 yards wind isn't too big of a deal. I was not shooting off of a rest. This is off of that bipod, laying on a wooden deck with literally just, the stock in my shoulder. I had no sandbag under it. This is a practical group that I shot for this rifle. But it measures just over an inch from center to center from this bullet hole all the way over here, the largest spread. But the 4-shot group itself is outstanding. If you just take the 4, I really think it can do better, maybe in better weather with, commercial ammo, just commercial match grade ammo, or even hand loads. But I wanted a practical initial impression accuracy test. I'll keep doing it as I go. So far, my largest group, even with Thule ammo, has been about 1.5 inches. Which, keep in mind, for 30-cent a round ammo for damn near 5.56 prices, that's not bad accuracy. I shot this group to show what the rifle could do with military 168 grain ammo, and so far I am extremely impressed with how well this thing shoots. So I'll keep updating it. I'll keep letting you guys know how it shoots and continue this. This is gonna be a long-term project. But that's everything I've done to the rifle. Start to finish, for having the work done, for those of you who've never had custom work done, because I had never sent off to have anything done before, it took about a month. maybe a little over a week, over a month or so, between shipping the gun from where I live in Ohio to Arizona, where they're located. The gun spent most of its time in shipping. As far as the work done, it took maybe 2-3 weeks, but they actually have to send off the barrel getting melanited is what took the longest, I think. They actually have to send it out to have that done. That's actually a heat treat process. So they had to basically put the barrel on, get it chambered, get it finish reamed, get it fitted and all that fun stuff. And then they had to remove it, take it, and send it off to have it melanited. So it is, it is a lengthy process for that. But I mean, if you're just having basic work done, and you don't even have to send the whole gun. If you have a rifle that's shooting fairly well, and this rifle didn't shoot bad before. I'll get onto why I did this all here in a moment. But if you have a rifle that's shooting fairly well, the trigger job I highly recommend on any M1A. A good trigger is always necessary. I really like that front sight. If you have a scout squad, you're not losing much sight radius. And if you have a scope, sight radius isn't really going to matter. The iron sight radius is only really going to matter if you're using iron sights exclusively. And this is actually an adjustable front. Let me see if I can get it here. Wrangle it around a little. That's actually an adjustable front sight post. It's not focusing. It is an adjustable height front sight post, which is the only one I'm aware of without being like a globe sight or something custom. But, for just standard, like, especially if you want to do something like what I did, which is more along the lines of combat type rifle, this right here is a really cool setup. I haven't gotten an exact weight yet. Although, again, unloaded, I want to say it's going to be under 15 pounds. I'll get an exact weight sometime. I don't have a shipping scale available right now to weigh it on. The bipod, again, quick detach, so it is removable. That does help the balance of the rifle quite a bit, too. But it shoots great. Now, why did I do this? Why did I go to all this trouble? Well, to be honest, I have a philosophy that is basically, if you're going to have a gun collection, no matter how many guns you have in it, you need to pick out one gun in your life, if you have the ability to just, I call it a dream gun. Some people call it dream gun, some people call it, I've also called it a blank check rifle or a blank check gun. Basically, have one gun in your life that is going to be the defining gun of your collection, the holy grail, the one that is built up the most, the one that you specifically chose everything on it the way you wanted it for you. And don't stop until you have it. This project, from start to finish, took about 3 years, from getting the original rifle to getting where I'm at now. And I've gone through 3 or 4 scopes, probably about 4 or 5 different stock setups, and then just everything in between. This rifle has changed so many times in the past 3 years that if you would have taken a picture at any 6-month interval between when I got it and now, it would look like I had 6 different M1As. If you would have taken a picture once every 6 months since I got it. The farthest I shot it before having this work done was about 800 yards. I was actually shooting Thule ammo, steel case ammo, and before you guys on the comments go, I was testing it. All right, it's my rifle. Now that I have a nice barrel on it, I plan to shoot nicer ammo. But I've had decent experience with the Thule ammo so far, and I'm still gonna shoot it in my scout squad. So if you want to yell at me, feel free in the comments. Just hit that caps lock before you do. I definitely appreciate it. But no, so this is kind of my blank check gun, and I may go over a few other guns I have, a few other guns I've tested. I've got about 5 years of sales experience and training, and a lot of I've got a lot of knowledge on this, and this is the rifle I wanted to build. I have no problem sharing that, by the way. So again, if you guys want more, feel free to let me know. Let me know what guns you want to see. I have no problem doing reviews. I'm doing a review on this because I looked it up, and there's nothing on the work that these guys do. There's nothing on something like this. I've looked all over. I'm an avid reader of Boston's Gun Bible, so I will say that it had me unfairly pick the M1A over a lot of other competition. I've had other rifles, FALs, AR-10s, HK91s, although, it was a parts kit gun on a commercial receiver, but this is the rifle I stuck with. Can you build a more accurate gun for less? Yes, you can. You could build a bolt action for, you could build a bolt action that'll shoot like that for $1,000. And now granted, again, I think it will shoot better than that. I really do. And you could build an AR-10 that will shoot about that group. Now, I added it up, and I'll get an exact figure sometime built up, but between everything, minus scope and rings, because obviously you can add that to anything, but between everything, scope mount, trigger job, stock, barrel, everything on this gun that can't be added, like except bipod, scope, and rings, this gun still costs about the same as a SCAR 17. So before you guys go out and say that I've got, thousands and thousands of dollars, you could go out and buy a good used Springfield M1A. And you don't even have to get a new stock. You can use the plastic stock. They're not terrible. They're just not that, they're not great either. But you could get a good used M1A with a walnut stock. You could pick a less expensive barrel, and you could have the same work I did and still get a gun that's going to shoot like that easily all day long. Another thing. This group was also shot. I had just finished a 3.5 mile run. I had to, because the ground was soft at the bottom of the hill I shoot off of, I also had to run the target down. I couldn't take the truck or the four-wheeler down to the bottom of the hill. I really had to do, I will say, that group is more indicative of me than anything. I had to keep my heart rate down quite a bit. This was also shot at the end of my 50-round firing string. I shot about 2 of these 25-round magazines in that range session, and it just it hit me. I'll say right now, for those of you that have never shot with an elevated heart rate, getting a group at all that looks something you would be willing to film is tough. Like I said, I'll keep posting more, but no, I don't have a problem with any of the other rifles out there. I've shot the SCAR, I've shot the AR-10, I've shot the G3 type rifles, I've shot the FALs. I had a great FAL, I really did love it. I ended up selling it because it didn't, I had 1 FAL and 3 M1As, and I wanted common magazines. I'm a logistics snob, and I wanted common magazines. But anyway, I did like all of them. This is the one I picked for, my own reasons. I like it. It's mine. If you don't like it, it's not for sale. But have that attitude. I do recommend, if you ever get the chance, do something like this. If anybody has any questions, like I said, I'm going to continue doing testing. Like I said, a couple videos I would like to do, and I'd like feedback. I want to do a gas piston comparison, because I have 3 different gas pistons to test out. I am going to put the original handguard on it. I clearanced one out to be a little bit better for that. I am going to put that back on to see if it helps. I think this one may be rubbing up against the barrel a little bit. But I have yet to really test that. Like I said, I just got it back. It's got less than 100 rounds through it total. And then next time I go to a 1,000-yard range, I'll try to get some footage of this thing pegging targets. A 1 MOA group with service-grade ammunition, that's 1,000-yard capable accuracy. But, thanks for watching. Like I said, sorry I filmed it on a cell phone. First video, I got a lot of kinks to work out. But I'll try to keep up on the comments. Thank you, and say, stay free and don't let the commies win.